Okay, welcome to episode 7 of Around the Block with Kyber Network. We have our guests Imran and Shane, who are going to introduce themselves in a moment and talk a little bit about what they do with Kyber Swap. And we're very excited about this episode. This is our first revamp with multiple guests on a panel discussion, and it's also going to be live on our Twitter space through TronDAO's Twitter. So, a couple different ways we're reaching the audience, and we're going to talk about a couple interesting topics tonight that will be related to integration of cross-chain, multi-chain in the DeFi space, and what things such as, challenges and benefits to the end user look like within those spheres and within those activities when you're deploying and you're having things like interoperability in mind. So I'm glad everyone can join us. Around the Block is our way of connecting with the community on a regular basis and keeping all of the people within our ecosystem informed as to what's happening. And we're very excited to have both Imran and Shane here to tell a little bit about themselves and what they do. So with no further ado, Imran and Shane, if you could each take a turn to introduce yourselves, maybe talk a little bit about your experience that led you to Kyber and what you do today.
Thanks, Frank. Hi everyone, how are you? My name is Imran. I'm the head of marketing for Kyber Swap, Kyber Network. I'm very happy to be here talking to all of you today because I think what we're going to talk about today is super important. What we're going to announce today at the end of this is going to be something that I think you all are going to be excited about, you all want to be part of, and you all want to be sharing about. My role in Kyber Swap is to really enable Kyber Swap to be the leading, most integrated, most advanced multi-chain decentralized exchange. So we allow DeFi users to trade on all chains with all the tokens in DeFi. And we have right now the ability to trade on 10 chains in DeFi and trade more than 23,000 tokens. We allow users to be able to spot tokens before they trend. We allow users to participate in liquidity pools and farming rewards, trading competitions. And we partner up with really cool people like Buterin, Chain, as well as Tron, and many other great companies to build Web3 together. So that's my part. I'll pass it on to Shane.
Excellent.
Hi everyone, I'm Shane, head of strategy at Kyber Network. I handle a lot of the Kyber DAO governance and KNC related topics. I work closely with Imran as well on the marketing for KNC and Kyber Swap. Imran shared very eloquently about what we do at Kyber Swap. And yeah, we're very excited to just share more about our upcoming features, upcoming integrations, and our collaboration with TronDAO as well as BitTorrent Chain. On a personal level, I've been with Kyber for 4+ years, which is a pretty long time in the crypto space.
Yeah.
And yeah, very thankful to be here to share more about what we do at Kyber.
Well, I'm really excited too to have you guys. I think I just want to talk a little bit too about, the things going on at Kyber. We're going to get into some of that. Also from a macro and philosophical level about interoperability, maybe some of the differences between things like cross-chain, multi-chain, what is one versus the other, maybe some details on security risks and concerns when you're actually deploying within your ecosystem in that manner, as well as the benefits that could bring to the end user. I think one of the things that is really great as I've gotten to know the team at Kyber and what you guys are doing, you have a lot of alignments with TronDAO's philosophy to think long-term, to think of the end user, to think of speed and transaction, low cost, and how does that experience based on what you're building improve things for the user. So I do want to touch on that a little bit. If you guys could each take a turn just talking about how that philosophy sort of shapes and guides your guys' decisions on the team as you're looking to deploy and as you're making decisions going into the future, that would be really interesting to hear.
Shane first.
Sure.
Hi. Yeah. So, with regards to our position in the space, right? Like why Kyber was started. Maybe I can just give a little bit of background. Our founders, Lloyd, Victor, Yaron, they really started Kyber with the objective of providing value to the DeFi and crypto space. And at that time, DeFi wasn't even a term, right? But we wanted to allow very seamless, value exchange between different tokens, different projects, and at that time there was no easy way to swap between tokens. So that was like the fundamental kind of driving objective for them. And obviously, this has evolved over time to include not just swapping of tokens, but to facilitate, liquidity provisioning and value exchange throughout the whole DeFi and GameFi ecosystem. And moving forward, our vision remains, at the core is really to be liquidity infrastructure for the DeFi space, to be kind of like a multi-chain hub where anybody can come to whenever they need like liquidity. And we would do this through a variety of means, through our own kyberswap.com UI product, where people can, normal retail users or anyone actually can just come and swap tokens easily. But beyond that, our technology can be used by other dApps in the space and other projects in the space to facilitate their liquidity needs. So yeah, our long-term vision is really to be a key infrastructure specifically for liquidity, for the exchange of value throughout the crypto space.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you for sharing that. Imran, did you have any comments on the same question and direction?
Yeah, so can you hear me? I'm just checking my Twitter because my Twitter is not functioning. But I will share on my side that basically, if you think about interoperability, if you think about cross-chain, if you think about transactions, what we're really looking for is to have users be able to do what they want, make payments, send people, their friends, the people that they're doing business with, transfers, to exchange items. And these are not new things, right? These exist in the everyday world. But where Web3 is right now is that it's clunky, it works, but there's a lot of interoperability, integration that needs to be done in order for it to make it really work. And so I kind of compare this to the dial-up modem of the internet. And, we take a lot of pride in talking about ecosystem partnerships, integrations, and making things interoperable simply because that's what users want and need and deserve. Otherwise, it's too difficult to use. And it takes a lot of time, effort, resources. There's a lot of partnerships, negotiations, and discussions that need to happen in order for that to happen. Mm-hmm. And that's why we know we are here for the long term, because it does require us to put in those resources and build these partnerships over a long time and to really keep those promises for a long period of time. We've been around for 5 years, and our horizon is also very long. And we also look for people with similar horizons, with similar objectives, just like Buterin, Shane, and Tron.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that. I mean, I know we've had some discussions in the past about even the fact that when you came into the space, you appreciated that Kyber Network, no matter how hard you tried to do your due diligence and look around and make sure of things, there wasn't really a peep of anything negative or bad that you could think of. The team was committed to a long-term goal and vision. They had a lot of respect from peers in the industry. I think that's something that's excellent. And even down to the fact that, I had heard that Vitalik Buterin had actually advised you guys during your ICO stage. That's a really interesting thing that we can touch on. I know he said some positive comments about BitTorrent chain in the past on Twitter, and I know he is a very smart gentleman who thinks very long-term as well, and about the good of the space for everyone. So maybe you can talk about a little bit about those early days under some of his guidance when you were going through the ICO. That'd be interesting to hear.
I think I should pass this to Shane.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. I can share a little bit more about that. We don't work with him directly, personally on my end, but he's a good friend of Loy's. Loy Du, one of our co-founders. And Vitalik, of course, is one of the core people that you think about when you think about Ethereum and how DeFi and the crypto space first gained popularity back in 2016, 2017. But he's definitely a very intelligent person, like you said. He has helped us and give advice in terms of our Kyber DAO when we first started, trying to, in the ideation phase of how we wanted to design our Kyber DAO, how we wanted a decentralized manner for people to vote on chain. And it has over the years also given pointers in terms of, what's the best way to govern a decentralized project like Kyber. So that's for the DAO side. For the ICO aspects of things, he worked more closely with Loy. But at that time, like I mentioned earlier, there were very few decentralized exchanges which allowed easy swapping of different tokens, whether within a dApp or having a nice UI to do so. So for those of us that have been in the space for a long time, we would have remembered, a DEX called Ether Delta. That was like more or less the only option right at the beginning to trade tokens in a decentralized way, apart from all the centralized exchanges. So when we saw that need, Loy and Vitalik did discuss about how we could create a product which with a very simple UI and easy UI for anyone to actually trade tokens. So that was really how Kyber first started and the whole vision of Kyber first started.
Very cool, yeah. And I know that that's a big part of the consideration for you guys when you're deploying and building. From what I understand, a lot of the conversations you have internally are about that experience for the end user. And having that in mind from the start, I think, is what helps you cross that marathon finish line one day, right? And you guys have been making great progress on that track. With that in mind, and when we talk about interoperability and ease of use for the end user, I know that you guys are a big fan of a lot of EVM compatible chains, and you are multi-chain and looking at cross-chain solutions. Now that's a very complex, those are a few simple words to describe very complex situations to deploy multi-chain, cross-chain, easy to make it sound simple. I'd be curious if you can share a little bit of your experience diving into that direction with the end user in mind. Maybe some of the things that have been challenging, whether it's a security issue or things that have been very rewarding as far as feedback from users as you have made things simpler multi-chain. So that's something that I think that people would like to hear about. There's a lot of different founders, companies, and users as well, who could benefit knowing a little bit about how that serves them to work with a swap or a network that deploys in that manner. Imran, did you want to start us off there?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the user experience, I think people just want things to work, right? So our ultimate product vision is to really make things fast, cheap, seamless. We shouldn't whole industry. And I think that deserves the right kind of attention and professionalism and research and technical development in order to make it really work long term.
Absolutely.
Oh, sorry, my Zoom mic is not on. Yeah, specifically on the topic about multi-chain and cross-chain, just wanted to highlight that, I think our view at Kyber is that the future is indeed multi-chain. Let's see the proliferation of different EVM compatible networks, as well as standalone layer one solutions coming up. So I think a lot of new technology is also focused on bridging different networks, right? And at Kyber, we want to keep with the times. We want to stay on trend. So that is also, part of our roadmap. We have a research team fully dedicated in, looking into these topics and how the Kyber Swap product itself can also be embedded in these trends. Kyber is already multi-chain today. We are on 10, going to be 11 chains, and is going to be growing even more.
Wow.
We in terms of like cross-chain though, which is slightly different. So cross-chain requires bridging technology in between. And today we have popular bridges such as AnySwap, right, now called multi-chain, and Wormhole. There are even cross-chain aggregators coming up like Sockets, Bungee. So I think this space for the in terms of cross-chain facilitation will continue to grow, but right now it might not be that mature yet as a space, right? Because
Sure.
once in a while there are certain unfortunate instances where liquidity that is locked within the bridge gets impacted. So until we come to a point where everybody can be confident for adding liquidity on the bridges and swapping between them, when the smart contract audit companies have also upped their game. They have also gained more experience and knowledge from past historical instances. They are able to come up with better technology to also detect these vulnerabilities. So I think we have already made tremendous progress in the cross-chain space, but it will only continue to improve. And yeah, we are very hopeful for that. Kyberswap will also look into how we can integrate these technologies into our product. But for now, we are mainly, expanding to more chains and networks.
Awesome. Yeah, that can be a whole other episode, right? Like we can spend an hour at least talking about security related to bridges and larger ecosystem bridges to make things more efficient, quicker. But, like you said, there may be some third party risk, there may be some technological or contract risk. And until it's really solidified on the auditing side and security side, I could understand how that would give a little pause. But it's interesting that you noted you have a whole team dedicated just to the research arm of looking into these solutions. So, I can tell that, again, it's just another statement to the fact that you guys are very forward thinking and on top of things that will benefit that end user. I'm curious, with the end user in mind and with some of those solutions in mind, how do you guys think things like cross-chain and multi-chain solutions when you're deploying, I believe you said 11 chains you're on now and growing, how does that impact the bottom line experience for someone who's trying to move assets around, whether it's stablecoins or if they're looking for yield, whatever it may be? What is it compared to the early days when it was much less accessible and much more clumsy and difficult? Maybe you needed to study it a lot harder to access some of these protocols versus what you're seeing deployed within the Kyber ecosystem today. Could you shed a little light on that?
I'll share my side first, and then Imran can take over. So, on one hand, there's all the UI challenge, right? Obviously, when there are multiple networks that you need to choose from, you got to make sure that when users come to your website, your front end, be it on the mobile or on desktop, easy for them and intuitive for them to select the chains that they want to go to and to switch the network. And when they switch, everything is familiar to users who are using your product already. And for new users as well, it needs to be easy for them to understand how to make the swaps, make the trades, add liquidity, etc. So on the UI, there's that challenge. And of course, we are always trying to improve, but we think KyberSwap has done a good job in facilitating that onboarding process. On the other hand, there's also the costs, right? The challenge of costs, right? When you want to bridge assets, there's always certain gas costs involved. There's also the fact that when you bridge your assets to another network, that network usually needs a native token for transactions as gas for the network. So when you bridge certain assets, you also need to ensure that you have gas on that next network that you're bridging to, right? So yeah, there are certain challenges, and another third challenge is the idea of composability. So within a network, within a chain, due to smart contracts, right, that you can easily integrate between different protocols that are open source.
Mm-hmm.
And you can even like aggregate uh, liquidity from multiple dexes, and which is what KyberSwap does to give the best rates for users. You can there are yield aggregators as well, so you deposit yield on one protocol. I mean, like let's say there are three different protocols, and yield farming opportunities on all three. Another yield aggregator can help their users, access these three protocols just by depositing to just one website, right? And so there are so many possibilities with regards to composability when it's within a chain. But when it comes to cross-chain, there's that added step of bridging the assets and ensuring the security whenever you swap the assets between the chains. So yeah, there are definitely challenges when it comes to usability when you involve cross-chain, liquidity, cross-chain swaps, cross-chain kind of interactions between different projects. But I think in terms of UI, that's like really, there's no excuse, right? Because that is something that we can solve easily
Right, right.
compared to on the technological front, where there's still steps needed to reach a level where it's much more seamless. But we're getting there. Imran, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the definition of cross-chain and multi-chain is that a lot of ecosystem partnerships have to happen. So I think first and foremost, it's about really looking for the right partners in the space. It's not about my L1 versus your L1, my project versus your project. It's about how can we work together for the good of a user. And if I'm a user, I just want to do what I want to do at that time with the easiest possible experience and the cheapest possible transaction cost. And a lot of what we're doing with KyberSwap is looking at how can we automate some of these things, how can we help users make better decisions. So let's say you talk about automating, people normally talk about depositing pairs of of tokens into liquidity pools. So for example, in KyberSwap, you can deposit into a token pair pool with just one token, and we make the automated swap for you.
Right.
And like if you're looking at multi-chain, cross-chain, that also means that if let's say I want to do trading, then suddenly I have many choices, right? So like on KyberSwap, you have 23,000 choices of tokens to look at. So how do you make those kind of decisions, right? Like it's not possible for any one human to do DUD on 23,000 tokens. So what we do is we actually have our own repository of data. We've gone through billions of dollars of trades and on-chain data, and we've actually put together a machine learning algorithm to look at tokens and spot them before they trade, before they trend. And this is from on-chain action, wallet action, price action. And we tend to think that in this short-term kind of movements, machines can tend to perform better with this kind of technical analysis than humans ever could.
Yeah.
And the whole goal of this is really to make things easier for users, right? People shouldn't be trying to look for the best rates across 20 platforms. It should just be aggregated and routed through all the best, most efficient routes for users. So I think, on the immediate steps, these are what we are already doing. I think at the end of the day, it's really about I, as a user, don't have to think about what chain, what gas, which platform. In fact, a lot of this should happen under the hood. That means I could go into Tron, I go into an NFT marketplace, and I can pay with any token in any chain in all of DeFi, and it's powered by KyberSwap. So Kyber already, for example, right now, with some of the players that we work with, some of the GameFi companies, marketplaces, trading platforms, they already integrate our swap seamlessly into their app, simply because we provide the most efficient, fast, and effective rates for the users. So I think that's the future.
Yeah, I mean, that does sound like the future is bright for Kyber, and I think that, keeping the right things in mind, that long term vision, I think that's a lot of the reason why, you guys have aligned with what Tron DAO is doing. You guys are operating as a DAO. We have done the same thing, listening to the community, listening to the users, making things easier, more accessible. And I mean, the point you brought up about the AI and being able to analyze and aggregate that much data to help make decisions and maneuverability happen, that's really an edge. I mean, not everyone is doing that. Not everyone is actually putting the time and effort into that. I'm sure it comes with its own set of challenges. And that's something that if I'm going out, like in the earlier days, first of all, you had to do everything manually. And a lot of times you still do if you don't know about certain things and tools like that that can help you. But even today, like you cannot be everywhere at once. And you have to sort of pick a lane, especially if you're looking to put your own monies into the crypto space. I think personally, to find a lane and become almost like your own resident expert in it is one of the ways to roll. But if you have tools like AI and a good algorithm that's constantly evolving with a research team behind it that's keeping it up to date to help aggregate that, it helps you make decisions, right? And then when you don't have to think about it due to an easy user experience, you don't have to get caught up or stressed out or worried about losing gas due to, inefficiencies or things like that. It just all shapes up for a good long-term experience. And it's exciting to hear that, you guys are implementing a lot of this right now. A lot of this is available right now. This isn't just things that are ideas. They're practical. So I am curious too. I know that, when it comes to stable coins and multiple stable coins in an ecosystem and some of the things, that helps with liquidity. What are your guys' thoughts on integrating stable coins into some of these protocols? And can you tell us a little bit about any recent deployments? I know there's some with us, BitTorrent Chain and Tron in our ecosystem that have been happening. I'd be curious what you'd be willing to share on some of the recent news with, that type of thing.
Maybe Shane can talk about the pools and the stablecoins.
Yeah, so I think stablecoins will definitely remain in the long term, even in the DeFi space. There's always a need for easy conversion back to stablecoins when people like start to panic sometimes in the market. And stablecoins has also proven to be a good source of yield on certain protocols and platforms. So stablecoin is definitely one of the key pillars in forming an ecosystem for a new chain that is wanting to grow. They need to be able to attract stablecoin liquidity and having like a good DEX like Kyber Swap involved in facilitating that liquidity as well. So that is something that any project that's thinking of starting their own chain or they're trying to grow the ecosystem on their chain to consider. And there are of course centralized stablecoins that such as USDT, USDC. They remain very popular, and there are decentralized ones like DAI, MAI, UST, and there's pros and cons, right, for both. Of course, for centralized stablecoins, there's typically a company like Circle, behind USDC, but the pro of that is in certain instances for if they work a lot with like institutions that are not familiar at all with the crypto or DeFi space, and when these institutions come in, they might make mistakes when dealing with the USDC. For more centralized stablecoins, Circle might have the power, right, to help these institutions manage their funds more efficiently. For decentralized stablecoins, if these institutions make a mistake, there's no way for them to code is law, right? And there's no way for them to get back the funds, and being burnt, less investment into the space might come in due to that. So yeah, there are pros and cons, but so I would say both are important, and I think we would see more usage of both USDT, USDC, as well as the upcoming decentralized stablecoins and popular ones out there already. So for Kyber, whenever we expand to a new network, we always consider how we can provide very good liquidity for stablecoins for our users. And we work with projects in seeding these pools, in incentivizing these pools, so that there's a very good foundation of stablecoin liquidity. And that is what we are doing with Tron DAO and BTCC chain. So Imran, maybe you can share more about some of our upcoming initiatives there.
Yeah, great point, Shane. I think the what I would add to that, like if you let's say look at what's happening with US and Russia now, right? So it's the dollar versus the ruble, and I think it's about what what are commodities and items being quoted in? Is it in your token versus another token, your dollar versus another currency, and the currency it's the de facto tends to gain the most traction, the most volume. And in DeFi is no different, right? So I think maybe some of the listeners here are new to DeFi, but how DeFi protocols and exchanges work is completely different because you don't have large national reserves or bank reserves to provide liquidity. All the liquidity is provided by users like you and us, as well as the foundations that serve, right? So it's really important if you are a big Tron supporter, BitTorrent chain supporter, Kyber supporter, that you don't just buy the blue chip token that they are, but you actually participate in this. You take part in the yields in the pools, in the farms, and a lot of the transactions, commerce action will actually go through these pools, right? And it's necessary to actually seed all these pools in all the different chains. And that's why you have BTTC as a really important interoperability chain between, for example, Ethereum, BNB chain, Tron chain, and having the stablecoin pools in each, right? So you have a USDTT, you have a USDTTB, you have a USDTT, you have a USDTTE. And if you actually go and look through all of that, it's super important to have that because you may not necessarily have that liquidity or that token on one chain versus the other. And thus the interoperability is important. And that's kind of like where I think KyberSwap and BitTorrent chain are coming in right now, right? So we're having these pools because USDT, USDC, Tron, Kyber, USDC, these are all technically stable coins and essentially blue chip coins. There will be a lot of volume that's moved through these pools. So it's not just liquidity, but the actual trading volume, right? And that's where the pools will earn rewards for people who participate in them. So I think you guys just have to stay tuned, right? Because we'll be actually releasing a list of, I think, more than 16 pools and actually $1.5 million in rewards for people who stake, who pool as well as farm, right? Over a period of, I believe, up to 4 months. And I think this is something that for those who understand what's going on, who understand how necessary it is to seed the ecosystem, and KyberSwap being one of the first decentralized exchanges to actually facilitate all this trade. So imagine, you want to connect all these chains together, 3 of the biggest chains around, Tron, BNB chain, Ethereum, and how much volume and users is going to go through. And these pools are going to be the center of all that commerce, right? So it's a really interesting time to be able to execute this right now, to really integrate all of DeFi, and everyone on this call and everyone could be part of this by not just buying the token, but actually participating in the pools, earning the farming rewards, telling people how to use it, learning how to bridge, and giving people like us, right? We are trying our best every day to improve, giving us the feedback, giving BitTorrent chain the feedback, giving Tron the feedback, so that we actually improve to what's necessary for you guys to have a better experience over time. So I think that's what I really want to share. I don't think we need to go into specific pools because this will be released very, very soon. I'm very excited. You guys on this call are actually the first in the world to know, right? Like we've not announced this before. So I mean, like whatever you guys are listening here, maybe might be a slight alpha. But you guys got to understand, I think foundationally, what is needed to make the liquidity or the plumbing of DeFi work, right? And everyone on this call has the opportunity not just to be a holder, but to actually be a participant, to actually build this with us by pooling, by farming, by being an active part of the community, by spreading the word. And I think this is what is really, really important.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone's going to be excited to realize that they got to know first that there are some details that'll be coming out to stay tuned for. The biggest piece too is everything you said ties back into the fact that, and this is one of the reasons you're right in that circle among the earliest dexes to be established in these ecosystems of Tron and BTTC and with our EVM compatibility and everything you're working toward down the road, that we are as well, because you have that long-term vision for the user in mind. So while specific yields and numbers and those rewards you spoke of are really exciting, I think for me, the long-term picture and the stability that you guys offer as a team, the research you put into the back end, the amount of work ethic that goes into what you deploy, and the careful thought around it is equally exciting, because that's stability. That's a long-term project. That's something that will be here beyond the hurdles that exist in the space, whether it's regulation or user interactions and feedback or whatever it may be. You have that mentality, and you're going to keep taking the project where it needs to be. So I'm really excited for the fact that we'll be getting those details soon. Thanks for sharing that, with us here on the show. And I think that this was pretty much a great episode to just talk about your guys' experience and the network and the swap itself, as well as just the big picture of that interoperability with cross-chain and multi-chain being considered, and how that relates back to the experience and the outcome that the end user has. So it's really cool to work with you guys and know you and have you on as guests. I really appreciate you both. I want to give you a moment to see if you have any final comments before we wrap up, because I think this has been a great chat and we're just at about time. So you guys let me know if there's anything else you want to add before we say have a great day, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Awesome, Frank. I can just share that I'm really grateful to have this chat with you and the team. I'm really grateful for everyone listening in. Those listening in, again, you guys are the pioneers. You guys are the first movers. We are so early in this industry. When we do this right, you guys as a community, Tron, BitTorrent Chain, Kyber, when we do this right, what happens is we are setting the foundations for the next 5, 10, 20 years of commerce, game, peer-to-peer networks that's actually going to really fuel the next industrial revolution here. So stay tuned for us. If you guys haven't figured out yet, BitTorrent Chain will be the 11th chain that Kyber Swap is integrating with. We will be announcing this very soon, so you have to stay tuned to Kyber Swap, Kyber Network socials, BitTorrent Chain and Tron socials, because this will be out very soon, and you'll probably see it around the internet as well.
Absolutely.
That's it. I love this community. I love what you guys are doing. I love that we're so aligned long-term wise, and I can't wait to see what else happens. Typically when a launch like this happens on a big chain like BitTorrent Chain, and with the participation of Tron and BitTorrent Chain and Kyber, you typically would see some really interesting numbers that come out of it. So can't wait. I'll pass it on to Shane.
Sure.
Yeah, first wanted to thank Frank for hosting us and inviting us to be part of this talk. I think education is very important in the whole DeFi space. So, AMAs like this would really help your community as well as our community. And like Imran said, I think we are both very aligned in giving value back to our users. And just wanted to end off, just reminding everyone that Kyber Swap, like on other chains, on BTTC, we also intend to help users provide the best rates whenever you want to trade BitTorrent chain tokens. And we also want to facilitate liquidity in the most efficient manner possible, giving you more bang for your buck whenever you add and deposit tokens into our liquidity pools. So yeah, stay tuned for our upcoming liquidity mining initiatives on Kyber Swap in collaboration with TronDAO and BitTorrent Chain. And yeah, very excited to see what else we can work with in the coming months.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot to come out. And again, I thank you guys for all your comments, all the exciting news and the insight you shared, a little bit of alpha in the mix as well. And I think we'll have more to talk about in the future. So maybe down the road we'll have you guys or someone from the team back on to have a chat as things develop. But we'll all keep our eyes and ears open to the social pulse around Kyber and TronDAO, and we'll see what's to come in the coming weeks and months with Kyber Network and Kyber Swap. I think it's really exciting stuff to pay attention to, especially if you're one of the first to get involved and know of it. Like you said, it could be rewarding, and beyond that, you're a team that's really putting the effort in. So I appreciate you guys. We'll be back again in another 2 weeks on Around the Block to have some more experts on to talk about something that will help serve our community based on their experience, their opinions, and their thoughts. And you can look to our socials to see what that'll be and who our next guest will be. But I just want to extend again much gratitude and a warm thanks to both of you. And we will talk soon. Thanks for being on, guys. You have a great day, and whoever's listening, a great night.
Bye.
And we'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.